I'm Alex. I'm the founder and managing director of Climbing Trees, and I'm going to talk to you today about practical ways you can make your business more eco-friendly. So a very little bit about me. I'm going to picture me smiling so you can see that sometimes it does happen. I've worked in the ad industry since 1993, and I worked for the top 3 media agencies in the UK, working on accounts like Lloyd's, Waitrose, London Zoo, Amnesty International. I moved out of London in 2001 to work for a startup that grew to 25 million turnover. And lastly, I founded Climbing Trees, where we help clients get found on Google, Bing, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those kind of sites. Up front and centre, I think it's important for me to say, I'm not a sustainability expert, a guru, a ninja. I'm just a business owner from Essex who's going to share steps he's taken and steps he's planning on taking to make his business more environmentally friendly. So in terms of a bit of backstory, I started Climbing Trees with a blank sheet of paper from a home office in 2010, and I slowly started building the team out in 2016. We were growing fantastically, 50% year on year across 2017, 18, 19, and then COVID came along. And so our billings went down 30% overnight. They plateaued in Q2. In Q3, things started picking up. And then we had a very good Q4 to 2020, and that's carried on into 2021. And I think in that down period between Q1 and Q2, after the panic, after the lockdown, after the furlough scheme was announced, I started thinking more and more about what we could do to become more environmentally friendly. And so I think the first thing, my personal awareness changed. So I started thinking about, the world that I was going to leave behind for the twin boys that I had in 2016. And then you've got screen grabs like this from Google Trends, which is the interest in specific subjects. So this is one for what can I do to stop climate change? And people are searching for this kind of stuff more and more. And as time goes forward, for our customers, for our staff, this is going to be, a big point of interest. If you look at things like divesting from fossil fuels, people are looking to take action with their investments. And then we've got this thing about climate anxiety. People are getting worried about climate change, and that's going to continue as things like this happen. So there's a lot of hyperbole and nonsense written about climate change. These are some stats from NASA. You can see the temperature change of the planet over the last 40 years. We've got stuff like carbon dioxide. You can see where that's going. So it's definitely increasing. And then we have the sea level. So, you don't need me to tell you that things are sort of moving on a negative trajectory. And we've got recent climate events. You've got flooding in the UK. You've got, each year it's the hottest on record and those kinds of things. You've got fires in Berlin, in Australia, in America. So there's more and more of these kind of events happening. And so things seem to be changing too slowly. I'm 45, for the entire of my life, we've known about, the climate change and environmental issues, but nothing's changing. The pace of change is very, very slow. And I think regardless of your political affiliation, who's actually going to lead this? Are you going to trust this lot to, actually take action? Are countries going to do this? I mean, are us guys in the UK going to actually lead? You've got big, massive businesses with vested interests like this. These are some of the top carbon polluters on the planet. Are they going to lead on that? Or are we going to get people like, Attenborough, Bill Gates, or Greta stepping up and actually changing things? Who's going to do this? And so I think one of the greatest threats to our planet, this is a quote from Robert Swan, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. And so obviously in a presentation from a man from Essex, you get a quote from Gandhi. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And so I can't change anything else other than what me and my business does. And so we have to focus on that change. So we know we can do it. CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, from when we understood there is a damaging the ozone layer to changing their use and stopping their use, that took 4 to 5 years. It was done very, very quickly. Man is very, very innovative, and from men for millennia hadn't flown, and from the Wright brothers on their first flight to getting into space took 66 years. And you think about that trajectory, that curve of acceleration, and I think that what we hope is that going forward, there's more and more innovation to try and address the negative impacts of climate change. So as I say, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm not like whiter than white. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I think one of them is not doing this from the start. So from 2010, when I set up Climbing Trees, I could have done this and I haven't. And so a lot of what I've done is I've then had to go through and then retrofit it. And what we're coming on to now are some of the steps, some that we have always taken, but some of the new ones that we're actually bringing in. And so what we've actually had to try and do in the office is recycling. So rather than just throwing stuff and sending it to landfill, is having very clear recycling, so that people can then put mixed paper, general waste, plastic, glass, tin in separate bins. Very simple, not that much to do, but just means that that area is addressed. Then we've looked at stuff like paper products that we use. So we try and avoid using paper wherever possible. Obviously, we do stuff like not printing unless it's absolutely necessary. And then we make sure that we've got recycled, environmentally friendly paper that we are actually using. When we do print, and if we have paper that's been printed on one side, we then make use of the other side, and we use it for creating notepads in the business, for jotting down sort of daily reminders and that kind of stuff. And so it's to then make the use of the paper that we are using. And then it's thinking about stuff like birthday cards. So historically, I don't know what your office is like, but we do collections, and we give people birthday cards, that kind of stuff. As much as possible, we're trying to stop doing that kind of stuff and use e-cards. So recycling doesn't just stop at plastic, paper and waste. So you can recycle old computers. There are a number of charities that we work with, either in London or locally in Essex, where we give them unused hardware that's redundant, where they can upcycle them, repair them, or extract all the important stuff before then, sending a product to the end of its life. In terms of tech, because the industry that we're in, we have to use quite sophisticated computers. And so wherever possible, we try and get good quality spec computers that have been refurbished. So rather than buying new, buying stuff that has then been refurbished. So next up, we're looking at whether to use desktops or laptops. And I think laptops are less impactful on the environment. They're more energy efficient, they're cheaper to run, so therefore they're more environmentally friendly. Very often with office moves, sometimes you have to kit out in the offices and that kind of stuff. So upcycling office furniture is important, and I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can actually utilize furniture before just sending it off. You can send it to charity shops, you can send it to recycling centres, and very often you can engage with companies you buy furniture from, and they'll take away and reuse your office furniture that is no longer wanted. Obviously in the office you occasionally have to print, and so using reused ink cartridges is a really critical way of moving things forward. All of our stationery that we use in the office is from a B Corporation company, so we use recycled stationery, pads, pens, rulers, and everything of that nature to make sure that we are negating the impact that we have. And that can go for stuff like ring binders, where rather than throwing them away, you are making sure that they're reused and reutilized. In the office, sometimes for mice and calculators and that kind of stuff, we need batteries, and so wherever possible we try and use rechargeable batteries. We get sent subscriptions as an ad agency to a number of different publications, and if they're not being utilised and we don't need them, we will unsubscribe from those mailing lists to make sure that we are not contributing to waste on that side of things. So we don't have much packaging that we use, but as a business, you can source environmentally friendly packaging. So like 23% of materials end up in landfills. And so swapping regular packaging for eco-friendly packaging is only going to help reduce the impact of that side of things. Trying to use packaging which doesn't include plastics and polymers, for example, because sometimes that can mean that the overall thing is not recyclable. Now, next up, this is one that I didn't realise, but with email storage, the fewer emails that you store, the lower your carbon footprint will be. So storing emails will consume electricity and more to extend will emit greenhouse gases. So clean your inbox regularly. Unsubscribing from unwanted emails can reduce the carbon impact for both you and the sender as well. Obviously, pre-COVID, we were talking about stuff like car sharing, and I think when we feel our way back into the world, when we open up a bit more, car sharing is a great way to lower emissions. Obviously, a subset of that is looking at things like public transport. And so wherever possible, we try and utilise public transport, buses, trains, that kind of thing. As a business, we obviously have a season ticket loan scheme as well, so that we promote that to employees should they wish to take advantage of it. Now, we're based up in North Essex in a very lovely little village, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and so cycling can be quite perilous, but we do have a cycling to work scheme should people wish to make greater use of that. So we've done a number of things. One of those is reducing the number of days in the office, but there are government-backed schemes like the Bike to Work scheme, which could be a great way to encourage your employees to stop using their car and actually get on their bike. Obviously, with offices, if you have a lift, try and encourage people to use the stairs. That will improve their health and that will reduce the impact on electricity. Next up, we think about things like cleaners. So if you're using the office, you've got all kinds of really damaging and really harmful, like environmentally harmful chemicals that you can utilise. And so there are a number of brands like Ecover and that kind of thing, which are environmentally friendly and will reduce the damage that your business does to the environment. Office lighting. So when in the office, you can switch to LED lights or CFL, and they will last significantly longer than regular bulbs. They don't use as much, they use much less energy. And if possible, you can try and maximise the natural light in the office, which will help save energy, also give your staff vitamin D and improve their moods and productivity. This is one I would love to do, but we're not able to because of the offices we rent, and that is looking at installing solar panels so that you can actually reduce the energy that we use and actually save money as well. In terms of heating, having a properly designed, installed and maintained HVAC system can provide you with years of comfort for employees, lower energy bills and improved water consumption. So making sure that your windows are properly sealed can massively help reduce your energy usage. Putting blinds in front of windows can stop heat loss during winter, keep the heat out in the summer to make the office cooler and more comfortable. And so you don't have to utilise heating and air conditioning services or systems as much as you otherwise would. So if you walk around your office, you can identify which areas are being unnecessarily heated and take action to make savings as required. And so that will obviously save the energy you're using and the money you're spending. And then as a subset of that, adjusting your thermostat can help you save energy and money. The ideal temperature can be between 22 and 23 degrees. Sometimes in our office, we have to encourage staff not to have it as a quite outstanding 26, which is like a sort of tropical temperature. And so agreeing office temperatures is a critical thing, and trying to keep it at a nice sort of level is ideal. So next up is obviously turning off electrics. And so with a lot of computers, laptops, printers, copiers, desk fans and other electrical equipment, if they're all on standby mode, they can still use electricity. So if there's a hibernation mode, that's the ideal situation. If not, it's making sure that everything's turned off so you're not using electricity when no one's in the office. So this is one thing that we have done, and we've done. We've looked at various energy audits to make sure that we are using our systems and computers and hardware in the most optimal way possible. Some companies create monthly green challenges. And so everyone loves a challenge, and so setting up a mini competition to make recycling fun or reward employees for carpooling, walking or cycling to work can really help drive change culturally within a business. I feel a bit self-centered saying this, but choosing to advertise online rather than with traditional leaflets or ads in newspapers or large outdoor sites and that kind of stuff is better for the environment. And so it uses up less materials. And so advertising digitally can also help you to track progress, and you can more easily understand the success you're getting. So events, if events are important to your business, there's many ways that you can make those more sustainable. You can decide to go plastic free. You can ditch paper handouts. You can choose organic, locally produced catering. You can choose venues that are responsible. You can consider the most environmentally friendly way for people to travel to the event. So it could be holding it in London or near a tube station, or where public transport is readily accessible. You can choose to project what you're talking about rather than using print. Again, LED lighting is important. And sometimes you can use stuff like an outdoor venue, or you can look to work with an events agency that share a similar sort of ethos and are concerned about this kind of thing. Very simple suggestion, you can look at fixing leaking taps. They consume a vast amount of water that adds up over time, and then making sure that people aren't leaving taps on, that kind of stuff is always advantageous. In washrooms, you can use cloth towels or hand dryers instead of paper towels, obviously less energy intensive. One thing that we're going to look to do later on this year when people return to the office is distributing reusable bottles for all staff for their cold drinks. And so obviously if you're into like business promotion, these kind of bottles can be branded and are a great way to sort of advertise your business. Encouraging people to bring lunch to work in reusable containers is feels a little bit prescriptive, but that will stop them buying food from shops and like generating packaging that will be thrown away. People do what they do and what they want to do, and we would suggest this kind of thing, but we wouldn't enforce it. Obviously, it's down to personal choice and discretion. So I think for us, in terms of the impact of COVID on the business, we've looked at all of that stuff, and some of those initiatives we were doing, Some of them we've stepped up our efforts on, and some of them are in the pending trade that we're going to pick up on. And I think that the main effect for us on COVID in terms of team performance is we're going to make the office move from being full-time in the office to 2 or 3 days, depending upon what people want. We're not going to be prescriptive about it. That obviously means less commuting to or from the office. We are going to try and encourage clients to have regular video calls rather than face-to-face meetings, but obviously I think post lockdown there is going to be a big swing back. So all the meetings that we haven't had over the last year, I can sense that there is pent-up demand for face-to-face meetings. We've always been a flexible working, so we don't have a start and finish time, so people work the hours that they work and generally self-manage. And then what we try and do is make sure that the staff are heard, and factoring in, you know, their day-to-day life brings out the best in them, so they feel committed to delivering for the business. So we have, you know, as much as possible, tried to be flexible. And I think there are things like there's a big movement in the agency space to move, some businesses are moving to a 4-day week rather than a 5-day week, and offering staff the ability to work from home or the office or from other locations can really see a beneficial impact from staff in terms of morale and their mental health. We use an energy supplier called Bulb, who are 100% renewable and absolutely fantastic. BCorp, really, really nice company to work with. One thing we've been doing is offsetting trees. We've been doing offsetting carbon emissions through planting trees. Sorry, I think what we have planted now just in excess of 10,000. So the screen grab's a little bit out of date, and what that allows us to do is offset the carbon that we've produced as a business for each staff for when they're at work and at home. And then what we're doing is going back to when we founded in 2010 and offsetting all carbon emissions, so that we can say that we are a climate positive business. We've also recently submitted our application to become a B Corporation. B Corporations are a voluntary group of organisations that try and balance making a profit, which is what we're all in business to do, and not doing so at the expense of planet and people. So making sure that you're negating the impact you have in the environment, making sure that you're having a positive impact on your staff, on your customers, and on those in society as well. And there's a big movement called the Better Business Act to actually make sure that business is responsible and acts in a way that is in harmony with planet, people, and profit. As a subset of our B Corp application, we are now selecting to work with suppliers that are on a very similar mission to us in terms of trying to mitigate the impact that we have on the environment. And so surrounding yourself with those like-minded suppliers can only be a benefit. We have an environmental mission statement for the business, and so that includes the hows and the whys, and we share this with our clients and employees. We have always, since we founded, been paperless in terms of our invoicing and billing. We've always done it via email, and we'll continue that way. It just means that there's less envelopes, postage stamps, invoices being sent out, statements, reminders, all of that kind of stuff. And so that stacks up to something I think most businesses are that way. If we are buying provisions for the staff, we try and buy fair trade, organic stuff that is making sure that our tea, coffee and sugar supplies are from a good supplier. Over the summer months, we have a company fruit bowl where we use support local farm shops, getting stuff that's 100% local for the business, so providing fruit for the whole team. We're not fortunate enough to have outdoor space, but creating a space outdoor with lots of plants, room for workers to relax, can contribute to a healthier, better working environment. It's undeniable having plants around in an office can help purify the air and provide health benefits. Like obviously there's all sorts of studies that show offices that have plants versus those that don't. The ones that have plants have fewer colds and sickness days per year. Unfortunately, the vast majority of our office plants died during lockdown because I neglected to look after them. So we'll probably get some new ones, so that's not so great. Again, this isn't one that we need, but you can install rain barrels to harvest outdoor water and that kind of thing. As we all know, you can do things like green team building, and so you can reinvent those sort of team building activities. So you can do stuff like, I don't know, gardening, clearing local areas, volunteering at local schools, and there's a whole range of environmentally friendly activities that you can undertake as a team. We regularly donate to various organisations, and so this donating to local sustainable causes is something that we are looking to do more and more of as time goes on. Now, there are many courses that businesses and individuals can learn to become more sustainable. There's a whole load of information that we've shared here in terms of things that you can actively, explore and see whether they're feasible for your business. But there are courses that are out there. And I think, for myself, we have had to go through a period of introspection and soul searching where we've looked at how we've been doing things, and we've then tried to take positive action. There's a load of stuff I could have done better from the off. I feel embarrassed that I haven't, but what we've done is, as a financially secure business, we are making these changes to mitigate our impact, retrofit any sort of amends we need to make to actually get back to a square base, and then looking to then push on from there. So in terms of 10 years time, I can envisage us being a fully remote business, not necessarily just working with staff from Essex. A lot of our clients are UK based. I can see that we would attract staff that care as much about the environment and the planet as much as they do as a profit. And then we can build up, I can see that we can build up a cohort of clients that are, share similar values. So sustainability environment is quite, some of this stuff was quite every day in terms of its application. When you think about it, it's not rocket science. And so they're all small changes that we can make. And I'm sure that things can be better if we embrace them all together.